All right, today we're jumping right into the powerful and, let's be honest, pretty shocking messages of two ancient prophets, Amos and Hosea. These guys were tasked with delivering some of the most dramatic warnings in history.
But first, I want you to think about this for a second. What if your own life, your personal life, your marriage, your family, what if that became the very message you had to broadcast to an entire nation? That's the kind of intense reality we're about to get into.
So let's set the scene. We're in 8th century BC Israel. And on the surface, everything looked great. The nation was thriving, it was wealthy, and religious activity was, well, it was everywhere. By all outward appearances, you'd think it was a golden age.
But there was this huge, dangerous gap between how things looked and how they actually were. All those religious festivals and sacrifices, they'd become totally hollow. People were just going through the motions. It was all a big performance, a mask to hide the fact that society was basically rotting from the inside out. You know the story, looking good on the outside while deep, systemic injustice is just festering underneath. This is where the prophet Amos steps in, and he does not pull any punches. He paints this picture of greedy merchants who literally can't wait for the holy days to be over so they can get right back to ripping off the poor, using rigged scales to cheat them. It's just a raw, brutal reminder that exploiting vulnerable people for profit is an old story. It was all about the bottom line, with zero integrity.
So how in the world do you expose a corruption that's hidden under such a beautiful surface? Well, God gives Amos a series of these really unforgettable visions, and it starts with a simple builder's tool.
First off, what even is a plumb line? It's really simple, just a weight on a string. Builders use it to see if a wall is perfectly straight, perfectly vertical. It's the ultimate, undeniable test of what's true and upright. No arguing with it.
Now, here's where the vision gets really interesting. God is the builder, and the entire nation of Israel, that's the wall being tested. He holds his perfect standard of justice and righteousness right up against the character of the nation. And the verdict is just damning. The wall isn't straight, it's leaning, it's unstable, and it's basically ready to collapse. The nation is totally out of line. They fail the test. And that's a powerful reality check for any society that measures its health only by its wealth, while its actual foundations are crooked.
But the warnings don't stop there. God shows Amos another vision, a basket of ripe summer fruit. It looks perfect, right? Delicious even. But just like the nation itself, this beautiful image has a hidden, much darker meaning. It all comes down to a clever and frankly kind of grim play on words.
Okay, you're gonna love this. In Hebrew, the word for summer fruit is kayetz, but a word that sounds almost exactly the same, kayetz, means the end. So when God showed Amos that beautiful basket of fruit, he was actually declaring that the end had arrived. The nation looked ripe and healthy, but it was really just ripe for judgment, rotting at its very core.
So if Amos's message was a stark, public warning, the prophet Hosea's message was, wow, it was deeply and painfully personal. God essentially made Hosea's own life a living, breathing parable of his relationship with Israel. Try to imagine this. God tells Hosea to marry a woman named Gomer, knowing she will be unfaithful to him. Why? Because their broken marriage was meant to be a mirror of the relationship between God and Israel. See, Israel had turned away from God, their faithful partner, to chase after other gods. And through his own pain, Hosea was forced to feel what's called the pathos of God, that deep, personal heartbreak God felt over his people's betrayal.
The story is so shocking that scholars have debated what it means for centuries. Was Gomer's unfaithfulness just spiritual? A metaphor? Was she maybe a cult prostitute? Or was the whole thing an allegory that never literally happened? Or, as some scholars suggest, was it all just to give the prophet this profound, divine sympathy for God's own suffering?
So after all this judgment, you'd probably expect the story to end there. But with both of these prophets, the message takes this surprising turn, away from total destruction and toward a stubborn, unrelenting hope.
This is so crucial. Even after everything, the door is not slammed shut. Hosea's message actually ends with his powerful plea for the people to come back. He's saying forgiveness and restoration are still possible. And it's because God's loyal love, his chesed, it just persists, no matter how unfaithful they've been.
Amos ends the same way. His story doesn't end with a collapsed wall, but with a promise of rebuilding.
His final vision is of God restoring David's fallen tent, and that's just a powerful symbol of national and spiritual restoration.
And this isn't some small patch-up job. This promise of restoration is huge. It talks about a revived Davidic dynasty, a return to an almost Eden-like prosperity, where the harvest is so abundant the farmer can't even keep up, and a final promise from God to plant his people back in their land, never again to be uprooted. It is a message of ultimate, secure hope.
Ultimately, these prophets force us to look beneath the surface, in our own lives and in our own societies. Which kind of leads us with a final question to wrestle with. What is an ancient message about social justice, about painful judgment, and about a love that just refuses to let go? What does all that mean for us, right here, right now?